You're listening to Me and Paranormal You with your host, Ryan Singer. It's more fun to believe. Third year bonus. Hello and welcome to the program, everybody. This is Ryan Singer, the host of Me and Paranormal You. You're listening to a third year bonus, which is an episode where there's no guests being interviewed. Maybe I'll interview myself. I don't know. That's probably not going to happen. I do have, it's been requested that Todd interview Diner Dan, so I think that's probably going to happen. I mean, I think that would be an interesting conversation between Todd and Diner Dan. Hey, man, I'd love to interview Diner Dan. I know you would, Todd. It's not the time to come to the program. Todd interrupts the show and just starts talking sometimes. Just starts talking. And, well, so does Diner Dan, and so do these other people that I'm not sure where they come from, but, you know, they show up on the program over the years, and they want their voice heard. And, you know, I'm not going to totally stifle them. We appreciate that. I know you do, Todd. I know you do. And, you know, Todd's a part of me. I think Todd's a part of the show at this point. So is Diner Dan. Yeah, man, I just wanted, some scrambled eggs. We get it. I'm probably going to actually make eggs later because I'm doing this keto thing. Let me tell you, I don't know why I'm doing this keto. I mean, I do know why I'm doing it. I've been struggling for a couple years to, drop that extra little pandemic weight that I just didn't like because quite frankly, it made my driving, my back, it was messing with my back, things like that. So I joined a Planet Fitness, and I've been doing the keto diet for about a month now. And I'll tell you, I feel good. I feel better. I feel juiced. I feel jacked, yacked, stacked, cracked. All those things. I mean, I'm not going to be applying for any jobs at the mall, trying to be like an Abercrombie guy out front, like one of those living mannequins with the washboards. Well, they have like 8 abs. I thought we were supposed to have 6. Do beautiful people evolve differently? I don't. Are they on a different track? It's like the commercial where the guy takes his shirt off at the poolside and he's got 7,500 abs. It's unnatural. It's not right. And God, I mean, I don't want to go off on one here, but I might be on one tonight. I don't know. The people love the Is It Cake show, and I'm not here. I mean, it's on the TV while I'm at the gym. It's like it's either that or like, some game show bullshit or some the news, I guess, or it depends on what time you go. If there's anything good, like if I was to go later tonight, I'd be able to watch playoff baseball. Maybe they don't even have that on the TVs anyway. Is it cake? People make these incredible things that you can't tell if they're cake or not. And yeah, sure, fun premise, but only in this country. I swear to God, Zeus Almighty, hear me speak and smite me down if I'm lying, Odin. But we have so much food in this country. We're making game shows out of it. Like, look at all this food we can waste to make a werewolf Halloween display, and you didn't know it's food. We have so much food. We are so wasteful that we have game shows based on making people not understand if something is food or not. Not to mention the professional athletes. They call themselves athletes. The professional eating athletes. You're not an athlete because you can eat a bunch of food. That's just not how athletics work, okay? It's not like your stomach is out there doing 40-yard dashes. I don't care how much training you have to do, okay? This is a hill for me. I don't care how much training you have to do, how many hot dogs you gotta or how many buns you gotta sop into a red Solo cup with water, how many times you have to move past the gag reflex to become a true champ. It's like we have people who are calling themselves athletes. Other people are calling them athletes because they can eat the most food in the shortest amount of time while watching television programs about, is this couch made of cake? It's like, holy God. I'm not over here talking about the fall of the Roman Empire, right? And apparently, a friend of mine just told me that apparently men are obsessed with the Roman Empire or something. I don't even know when the Roman Empire occurred, other than it was a while ago, and I think Jesus was involved, maybe. It doesn't matter. I could care less about the Roman Empire. But, this idea of, is it cake, and professional eaters who are athletes is just so mind-numbing. And it makes you wonder, like, will the aliens save us? Will the aliens save us first and foremost from this, and secondly from climate change? Oh my God. No, the aliens aren't going to save us. Everybody's looking for an outside hero. That's not going to happen. We have to save ourselves. How do we do that? We stop making furniture made of cake, or werewolves, or pumpkins, or college dormitory rooms that are made of cake. Okay. Hey, man, it's just cake. I know, Todd. I know. You can't have your cake and eat it too, it turns out, is never been more correct than when your cake is a trapper keeper on a college dorm desk, on a game show. I mean, are we that short on? I'll sit down here tonight. I'll dedicate 2 hours to writing up some game show ideas if we're that desperate for game show ideas. Bigfoot spotted in Colorado. Are we going to talk about that? You bet your sweet ass. I've been trying to gather intel on this. I've been having conversations with friends who are interested and like-minded. And by like-minded, I mean love this kind of stuff. So far, we don't have any debunkable red flags. Other than it's walking around in the daytime where people could see it. But if you'll notice, the video footage, I posted the photo over on the Patreon like as soon as I became aware of it. The photo is better than the video. I mean, the video is compelling. But the photo, you can like zoom in and you can see facial features. At the time of this recording, there is nothing in my mind that's been brought to my attention. And I'm not an anthropologist. I'm not a scientist. But there's no big debunkable red flags at this point. And once it stops walking and then takes a seat, it camouflages immediately into the landscape in a very compelling way, which makes you wonder. A friend of mine texted me like, was there more than one? And we just don't know it because it was camouflaged and already sitting still. And that's a very good question. And we can scour through the photo, through the video, but so far it seems to be a singular sighting. Very compelling. I've had friends who are not interested in this in any way, shape, or form, nor have they ever cared to even think about being believers, messaging me in panic. Do I have to believe now? Can I never go camping again? Fear of the unknown is one of the immediate responses of the skeptic. And I got to tell you, why do you think I've had a therapist for 3 years? There's your answer. I think when people see this video and maybe they start to open themselves up to the spectrum of belief, they may understand that, the fear that is inherently involved in, a large, seemingly powerful and intelligent creature being just on the loose, which, by the way, BT Dubs, can we say, is how it should be. Human beings there's a lot going on in my brain right now. I got a lot going on. I'm not sitting here. I'm not over here wanting to tell you like, hey man, I got a lot going on over here. Hey man, you do have a lot going on over here, man. I know, Todd, but this isn't like a woe is me party. I've never been a woe is me kind of guy. And I don't intend on being, I mean, unless I'm sick, then I'm pretty whoa. But I have no intention of ever being a woe is me type person. Having said that, I will say this. Having said that, I will say this in addition to and on top of what I just said. I don't even remember what I was talking about now because I'm on one and I just have too much fun. I'm having fun. I'm being goofy. I do have a lot going on in my mind. That's what I'm talking about. I'm reading Operation Trojan Horse by John Keel. Much long overdue read. What a book to follow up UFO of God, by the way, by Chris Bledsoe. Now I'm reading this Keel book. I've read other Keel things. I've just never read this specific book. And boy, we're talking about paraphysicality and UFOs and all these kinds of things. And, it's an interesting argument that he's laying out at the beginning. If you read the book, you're familiar with the idea that UFOs are not extraterrestrial as much as they're paraphysical and maybe interdimensional, supposedly, or, there's some great, it gets into a lot. Okay. But then you couple that with a great friend of mine, D. Renee Wilson, who's an artist. I'm a member of her Patreon page. She posted a TEDx talk by Dr. Sheldon Solomon, I think it's Sheldon Solomon. And it's about humanity at a crossroads, and he's one of the pioneers of TMT, which is terror management therapy. And gosh, I got to tell you, when you consider the implications of such, when we've talked on this show previously, or I have talked on this show previously a lot, ad nauseum maybe to some people, after reading The Death of Forever and about the birth of the ego, creating the idea of mortality when before we were, seemingly immortal in our minds because we never considered death. Therefore, death did not exist. One could say you would feel immortal in such ways when there's nothing to juxtapose it against. So when you have the creation of God and religious belief systems to counterbalance the overwhelming awareness of death, which is something we've talked about a lot on here, that's basically what's happening with TMT. And basically it's and I don't know, I'm just getting into this because Renee, but what an incredible talk. I mean, it's not necessarily it's not flowers and sunshine, I got to tell you that. But, when it comes to the idea of needing something to believe in, wanting something to believe in post-mortem, something after this physical form, can we be good, decent people if we knew we were just going to be lights out? See you later, John. I mean, I don't know who John is. Maybe John is God, but who doesn't exist in this scenario, by the way. Can you be a decent person? And, whether it is, and again, I'm just getting into this, and it's going to consume me. It's all I've been thinking about. I did a 24-hour or a day of silence, I should say, a day of silent meditation where I haven't done it in a couple of years, and I was due, so I did it over the weekend, where you wake up, you don't look at your phone, you don't listen to music, you don't read books, you don't write, you don't paint paintings, you don't watch TV, you don't talk to people, you don't speak out loud, even to yourself, you don't engage in conversations or anything like that. You just do a lot of meditation and thinking, and hopefully you can figure out, what the hell your brain's been on and what patterns, keep showing up. I'd love to do 48 hours, and I will at some point, but I just did 20. I just did the one day. And obviously people go to the 3-week retreats of silence, and they find them, extremely transformative, life-changing, and beneficial. Maybe I'll do that. Who knows? I mean, maybe I'll just ditch all of the devices, let the creditors come calling, because guess what? I don't have a cell phone. But then they come after your family, don't they? They're such vultures. So I've been doing a lot of thinking, and I'm trying to really hardcore get myself into a system of meditation again, because I'm trying to connect with my guides. I've had that conversation with past guests recently about trying to, why am I not doing that, right? Why am I not assembling a dream team, as Samantha Fay would say? Why am I not connecting with my guides, having a conversation and being able to discern their messages, etc. So that's what we're doing. I mean, because I'm psychic, you're psychic, we're all psychic. Hey, everybody, get on board. So, I mean, if you've ever played golf with me, which is a card game, which I think 4 of you, and there's maybe 7 people in the world I've played golf with. I know the cards. There are times when I know the cards, and it's spooky to people I'm playing with. I will tell them what the card is before I flip it over, multiple times in the same hand sometimes. And it's a great thrill for me and everybody else, I think. Anyway, so I'm thinking about a lot of things. I'm thinking about the death problem, the implications it has in everyday life and everything around us. Climate change, all these other things. Because as you know, I believe, and I talk about this a lot, I believe that climate change and the impending disaster that it presents is the disruptive undercurrent for so much that's happening in our lives, whether we realize it or not. Do you feel like you have some kind of, I don't want to say displaced, but I will say unnamed or hard to identify anxiety in your everyday life? Just a generalized anxiety. I believe that for at least some of us, myself included, I could chalk up a large percentage of that to being impending disaster of climate change. I don't have children, and I don't know if I will. But that doesn't mean I don't want other people's children to have a life, a world worth living in, because I do. I want it to be beautiful. I want them to be able to hike the mountains. I want them to be able to swim in the ocean. I want them to be able to enjoy the falling leaves during the changing of seasons. I want them to be able to see the beauty of a flower about to bloom. I want that for other people's children. I don't have to have children to want that for the future for human beings. I mean, can we just get over this fucking buy money? Do we buy money? I guess we do. Accumulate as much money as we can. All of this bullshit. But it's like, hey, I'm just a person. I'll be driving around in my 2006 Camry, and I'm surrounded by beautiful, brand new, shiny SUVs everywhere I go. And I think to myself, God, wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't it be nice to be in one of those Jeep Grand Cherokees? Oh, baby. I could put like a queen-size air mattress in the back, sleep in rest stops, save myself $120 on a hotel when I'm traveling, go camping, maybe again. Hey, get over this fear of monsters in the night. Oh, wouldn't that be nice? And then I look at the gas mileage, 19 miles per gallon on the highway. Oh, somebody take the sieve out of my side. I'm bleeding out over here. Actually, leave it in. Because I think when you pull it out, that's when more blood. I don't know. I've only seen that in movies and television programs, which are super violent, but you better not see a nipple. But blow this guy's fucking head off. Okay, so death, the impending fear of death, TMT, which is something I just learned about today. It's interesting, although we've been on that tip over here for a while. We love talking about how much of what we believe in and what we seek and what we search for is a result of just not wanting to confront our own death. And the world of the paranormal is on the front lines of this. And those of us who are lovers of such things, ghosts, afterlife, reincarnation, etc., we must really ask ourselves, can we objectively, in any way possible, is there an ounce of integrity and in being able to objectively ask ourselves, Do we believe in this stuff because we're so scared of dying? And can we get an honest answer from ourselves in this regard? Oh God, I don't know. I don't know. That's why I speak of integrity. Can we honestly answer that question to ourselves? And if we were to examine forgive me as I slip into a materialistic worldview momentarily. I'm an idealist. I believe the foundation of all things is consciousness. But let me be a materialist for a moment. If we were to truly examine the evidence, the tangible evidence, and let's say also examine the repeatability of strict testing scientifically when it comes to identifying post-mortem phenomena, life after death. If we were to take all of the irrefutable evidence regarding these things, would it all fit in? Like, could we fold it up in those pieces of paper and put it in our pocket and walk around because there's so little actual irrefutable evidence? Or would we need binders and binders? Would we need buildings and buildings to store all the case reports? I can't answer that question right now, but I will say this. It seems like if there were buildings and buildings of irrefutable evidence regarding life after death as ghosts, specters, spirits, etc., there would be many fewer skeptics than there are now. Something to think about. We're going to talk more about that when we get back. We're going to take a quick break here because I need to lube up the throat. That just seems like such an adult way, such an unnecessary way of saying, have a little moisture in my pipe. Somehow it got worse, and I've never said moisture in my pipe before, but that might be my new way of saying I need to take a drink. My voice I'm feeling very... I haven't smoked a cigarette or vaped a pen in quite some time. It was July 9th of last year. That's my birthday. So August, September, October. So 15 months, over 15 months, which I'm very proud of since I've smoked a cigarette or vaped nicotine. But yet my voice, and I haven't talked really. I have been walking around the house yelling a bunch. Like I do that when I'm by myself. Random things, not like I'm angry, not that at all, but just weird things. I'll get on a run. Anyway, let's take a break. Patrons, thank you so much for contributing to my livelihood. $3 a month gets you commercial free episodes and some other things. I've been trying to do weekly audio updates over there as well. So I'll be probably, I'll keep doing that. I'm enjoying that. And then, other things over there as well. So $3 a month. You can give more. Feel free to give as much as you want, as you're able. Patreon.com/Ryan Singer. We're going to be right back. My pipe has so much moisture in it right now. Thank you for sticking with me through the commercial break. We're talking about has death created the entire world of the paranormal? Are we all believers only because we're so scared to death of death? Scared to life of death, essentially. And, the fear of death creating, arguably by certain, sociologists and other scientists, creating all of the problems that human beings ultimately face in the world today and since the inception of self-awareness and I guess self-conscious, I suppose, maybe in some way, if that's not incorrect to use that phrase. Can we get an honest answer from ourselves? Do we only believe in ghosts and all this other stuff because we just can't refuse to believe that once we're dead, that's it? And why did human beings get this self-awareness when other creatures do not? And which is, sort of an assumption, I suppose. I'm obviously making that assumption. I don't know if an elephant knows that it dies, but it potentially it does. And it just doesn't, yet it remains not freaked out about it. Maybe squirrels, I've been having an issue with some squirrels here in Ohio. And I got to tell you, I did nothing and I've done nothing. Still, I haven't acted in any aggressive way towards them. In fact, I've just been trying to find peace with the squirrels. They keep throwing acorns at my head. I got out of the car today and it hit me right in the head almost. Anyway, squirrels, are they self-aware, or do they understand their own death? And if they do, they haven't built nuclear bombs. Solomon talks about Dr. Solomon in this great TED talk. I'll link it. I think it's worth sharing because it really blew my mind today. A few TED talks in my life have really blown my mind, and I talk about them all the time. So I'm not going to keep repeating them, but if you know, you know. Brene Brown. Okay, I'll say it. Intimacy, Brene Brown. Creativity, Genius, Muse by Liz Gilbert. In this one. Crossroads of Humanity by Solomon. Kevin Kelly, the evolution one. Sheldrake, the one about gravity. Okay, God, there's more than just a couple. Do we desperately cling to this idea of the world of the paranormal, of ghosts, life after death, and do we allow our minds to jump to conclusions, on evidence of such things? Are we so rose-colored glasses on this that we find evidence where there really isn't any? These are, I guess, tough questions for us to, ask ourselves and try to get an honest answer. An old trick that I used to like. It's not a trick, but it's a thing. It's a technique. And you used to do it in, I don't know, there's all different scenarios in which you can use this. But what you do is you ask a question, or you have someone ask you a question, and you have to answer immediately. The first thing that pops in your mind is your answer. And does this mean that this is the ultimate truth of which you believe? I'm not saying that, because sometimes our mind works in interesting ways and we want to be creative. Maybe we want to have a funny thing come out first, or, a dramatic thing. It depends. But it is an interesting thing to do. And I used to do it when I was younger, where when I couldn't make a decision, I have to walk away from it for a bit. And then when I remember that I needed to think about it or needed a decision on it, I would just ask myself out loud, and then I would say the things out loud. Like, do you believe that ghosts are real? Yes. But I wanted to say yes there because I'm talking about this, so it wasn't a real test of the technique. You understand? Are we seeing things? Are we hearing things in the ghost boxes and the other ITC devices because we want to, because we desperately need something to hang on to keep us, from falling into the canyon of madness and darkness? And is that what the whole world is? Right? So, do I need to believe that the Sasquatch captured on film in the remote area of Colorado by passengers on a train actually caught Sasquatch? Yes, I do believe they caught Sasquatch. Do I need to believe it? I wouldn't say I need to believe it, but I'm considering donating to that campaign. Right? If someone was campaigning for need, like I'm need, and I need your money, I'd be like, let me think about it. Can I afford to give? I'm into it. I'm invested. I suppose part of my identity is tied into paranormal phenomena being real. I could walk away from all of this if I needed to. I could never talk about the paranormal again if I never wanted to talk about it again, I suppose. There's so much more to life than death and creatures that are unexplainable or unidentified, and interdimensionality. There is a lot more to life. What would I do? Maybe I'll go try to get a job at the Cincinnati Reds. I'm not qualified in any way to work in athletics or sports. I don't know what I would do. I would do comedy, because that's what I do. But the point is, could I walk away? Yes. Do I want to walk away? No. What's interesting is I thought there was people in the past that were going to walk away, and they don't. One of those, many years ago, I reached out to George Knapp, tried to get him on the program, and he said he wasn't doing interviews about that stuff anymore. And now it's like George Knapp's everywhere right now. And I get it. If George doesn't want to do a podcast that he's never heard of from a guy who's never heard of, that's fine. I thought George Knapp was on his way out of the business, but and John Keel even said something very interesting in Operation Trojan Horse. And God, and the book is not within arm's reach of me right now, so I'm not going to quote it directly, but something along the lines of getting into this has ruined his life. I can't say that that's the case for me. It's made my life more interesting, and there were moments where I thought it ruined my life, potentially, when I thought my life might be over or something like that in a terrifying, experience. But has it changed? It's 100% changed the trajectory and the course of my life, and specifically my comedy career. 100%. For the last 10 years, I could have been doing a very specifically comedy podcast, and I decided to do a paranormal podcast for 10 years. And I don't know how many paranormal podcasts there were 10 years ago, but there's a lot more now. And mine is not, people always want to talk about, people always bring up to me Last Podcast on the Left, and that podcast obviously became a worldwide phenomenon. But I mean, they're not strictly paranormal. A lot of true crime stuff and all, from what I understand. But by the way, Henry Zebrowski has always been one of my favorite comedic people. So I'm trying to think, did I ever do a pod? Yeah, I think I did my buddy's podcast with him years ago. Anyway, there's a lot to cover in this world, right? And does the fear of death and does the component of self-awareness and the creation of life after death, just so we have something to cling to and something to believe to, has it created at the very least, a large section of the paranormal world because of that? And is it all a house of cards? Potentially, maybe. Yeah, I suppose. I don't think it is, but, I'm not going to close myself off to the possibility, because I don't believe that, I believe in the possibility of anything, for sure. But when you look at videos of let's go back to the Bigfoot in Colorado, because this is very topical. So if you're listening to this like a year from now, I apologize. But, I had a friend of mine, call me and tell me, who I was having a conversation with about this, or maybe we were texting, it doesn't matter. This could be the most definitive and incredible video of a Sasquatch or Oma Bigfoot since the Patterson-Gimlin film. Those two, it could have ushered itself into the pantheon of all-time great Bigfoot videos. And to be clear about the circumstances surrounding this video being taken, these were passengers towards the rear of a train passing through a remote area in Colorado. Most most of, if not almost everyone else on the train did not see the creature. There was the guy doing the video and saying, "Hey, I got this. Look at this. Look at I got." So people around him were like, "Okay, what's going on? What do you got on there?" But it all happens in a flash. So, did someone put on a very, very convincing Bigfoot costume, and have they been walking around in the middle of the wilderness, out in the middle of nowhere, for a long, long time, hoping someone would see them and then capture them on film? I believe in the possibility of anything. I just said that. So, yes, of course, that is possible. Is it likely? No. Skeptics will tell you that it's a guy in a suit, and yet they offer you no evidence as to how or why. That's the interesting thing about burden of proof. I've noticed over the years that skeptics will make statements, and obviously they say, well, the burden of proof is on the person who's making a claim, right? But the skeptic can make any claim they want, and yet there's no burden of proof on them, which I always thought was pretty interesting. It seems kind of like a have your cake and eat it too kind of situation. So, well, then you think it's a man in a suit, then prove to me that it's a man in a suit. And you can't do that, much in the same way that I can't definitively prove to you that it's an undocumented creature in the world of zoology. Not in cryptozoology, but in zoology. And I guess documentation is a fuzzy word there. But with the world of disclosure happening, and what's interesting is you get into the John Keel idea of the paraphysicality, and that UFOs are not extra dimensional, that they are energetic, that they are energy. And then you have, well, okay, what about the Roswell crash and a couple other crashes? That doesn't mean that every single one, maybe. I don't know. I haven't finished the book, so I don't know if he ever addresses that. But to kind of give you a synopsis of the beginnings of all of this, Keel kind of starts laying out he fleshes out kind of a timeline, right, to a certain degree. And 1878 was the first reported on record UFO sighting. There was a man in Texas, John Martin. He was a farmer. He reports seeing a large circular object overhead, and it's traveling at high speeds. He told a reporter from the Denison, Texas Daily News about it. He described it as, quote, a saucer, end quote. The sighting date was Thursday, January 24th, 1878. Almost 150 years ago, 145 years ago. So we're coming up on the 150th anniversary of the first saucer sighting in 5 years. So maybe there should be a big party on January 24th, 2028. That would be fun to do. Keel talks a lot about how Wednesdays are the best times. It's when the flaps happen. That's when it's best to go see things in the sky. So tomorrow night, or tonight actually, because I'm recording this on a Tuesday, comes out the next day. Get out there and look at the skies if it's not too cloudy. 1883, 5 years later, Jose Bonilla, a Mexican astronomer, had been observing the sun from his observatory at Zacatecas on August 12th. So this is August 12th, 1883, when suddenly he was taken aback by the appearance of a long parade of circular objects that slowly flitted across the solar disk, the sun. He took pictures and made mathematical equations, trying to figure out, like speed and altitude, and he estimated that they were traveling at a 200,000 miles altitude. He sent his pictures and his findings to the French journal L'Astronomie, but they essentially ignored it. That was 105 40 years ago. 1897, 14 years after that, in the month of April, thousands of people throughout the United States were seeing huge airships, that's a quote, airships, over their towns and farms. Scores of witnesses even claimed to have met and talked with the pilots. According to the New York Herald, Monday, April 12th edition, 1897, a news dealer in Rogers Park, Illinois, took 2 photographs of a cigar-shaped craft. Quote, I had read for some days about the airships, end quote. His name was Walter McCann. 1897. 126 years ago. 126 years ago. Fast forward all the way to the year 1953. A panel of top scientists and CIA officials reviewed all the evidence from Project Blue Book and other things. I believe Blue Book was happening then. And they rejected it that UFOs were extraterrestrial in nature. They rejected that extraterrestrials and that UFOs were extraterrestrial in nature, leading more credence to the paraphysicality theories, the energetic theories, the terrestrial energetic paraphysicality theories, that all these things that people are seeing are originating here. Instead of announcing that flying saucers from another planet were visiting us, the panel suggested that the public be re-educated to believe that the sightings were inspired by natural phenomena, misinterpretations of known objects, and so on. The Air Force files, which had previously been openly shared with reporters, were then buttoned up, and an order was issued to forbid Air Force personnel from discussing UFO data. The move inspired the cry of UFO censorship that persists to this day. So to be clear, according to Keel and, by examining records and just the evidence presented, before this panel was convened in 1953, 70 years ago, the UFO was openly sharing all UFO information with reporters or people who were curious. They were curious as well. It was kind of a newer thing, right? There wasn't a lot of talk about national defense warnings, etc. 70 years ago. There's even Major Kehoe wrote a book, and former Air Force. They were willing to let everything and anything he wanted in his book be in there. Nothing was censored. Now, there have been other people who have written. There's been a ton of books written by people who are former military, and they're not censored. They're not, or at least they're able to put the books out, and they're still compelling. There's a lot of compelling information in there still. Now, even 50 Shades of Grays. He worked, he worked at the base, at Wright Air Force Base, for over 30 years. And he said there was nothing that he was not allowed to put in that book when he looked for clearance. So, we are looking outside of ourselves. We are looking for visitors, pilots from another planet. Is this a great delusion? Is this a great illusion? Is it a delusion or is it an illusion? That is a conversation that we will have another day. I have more reading and research and things like that to do, but I'm kind of on this death thing right now, but I'm also wanting to read this. They all correlate. All of this stuff is connected Keel has even hinted at, mysticism, spirituality, the woo-woo stuff. It's all connected to the UFO world. You know that we believe that over here, and we have for some time. That all leads road to Rome. All leads road to Rome. All roads lead to Rome. There we go. I'm talking about Rome again. People are going to start making, sending me the meme thinking I'm obsessed with Rome just because I used two famous sayings that involve the city formerly known as Rome. So, or the Roman Empire was one of them, I guess, right? The fall of the Roman, it fell or something. Nero playing a violin or something, or jerking off while the city burned. I don't know what happened. I just knew I grew up with a kid, and his last name was Nero, and never once did it come up. Rome never came up, even though he never found out if he was related. I'll have to hit him up on Facebook if I can remember how to log in. Of course I can. It's saved on my computer robot. So, is it an illusion or a delusion? People claim to have seen and spoken to the pilots. Was there a trickster element? We talk about, George Hansen, the trickster in the paranormal. The trickster is inherent in paranormal phenomena, and I hate that. I hate it. I also love it, but I hate it. You know what I mean? But I love it. But I really dislike it. The trickster element is there. Is there something greater at play here? And if we can understand that human beings, for some damn reason, have what Solomon in his TED Talk says is this strange creativity. I don't know if he said strange or not. That's my words, but we'll call it strange creativity. And I've loved the strange creative mind of human beings for quite some time. 11 years ago today, actually, my album Comedy Wondertown came out. I think it was on that album, or it's when I first, and there's certain jokes that I've never been able to figure out, right? And in time, I will eventually figure them out. One of them is the beautiful and the scary at the same time imagination of the human being. Whether, we can put robots on Mars, yet we create things like the guillotine, which is terrifying. It's a terrifying, terrifying device. Once you realize what all it entailed, which was much more than just, putting someone in a stand-up coffin kind of thing and stabbing them to death with the swords in it or whatever. It's chopping them up into pieces, and the thing had to be built by a fresh water source that had flesh-eating fish. So your body would be shredded and killed and destroyed and then consumed, wiping any evidence from the earth that you ever existed as a person in physical form, which is it's just terrifying. And it's just like, how bad did you piss somebody off? And what is there anything you can do? And many people would argue yes, and I'm not going to argue against that answer, that deserves such a thing. So I'm sure you can think of at least 3 or 4 things right at the top of your brain. So, but, it's both sides. But someone thought of that. Someone created that device, that death torture device. And someone also thought of, the math that it takes to get a robot onto the surface of Mars. It's just bonkers, right? So why did the human animal, and how, rather, and, we're going to get Terence McKenna in here, he's going to start talking about eating mushroom, the stoned ape theory. Why did and how did human beings break through this barrier, if you want to call it a barrier? Is it a blessing? Is it a curse? I really don't know. Would you rather be rolling around in the dirt right now, sleeping under the moon, not worrying about your social media stats? Or would you rather be where you are right now, listening to this through headphones or through some Bluetooth speaker or however else you do it, connected to the Wi-Fi? Connected to the Wi-Fi. He got the Wi-Fi at the house. God, you would become your grandparents before you. My grandparents never said that. The Wi-Fi. Anyway, my grandparents actually invented the internet. Did you know that? I've been a billionaire this whole time. Can you imagine? Such a humble billionaire driving around a 2006 Camry. God, got to get that thing to 300,000 miles. I'm close. I'm about 22,000 miles away from getting that thing to 300,000. So how and why did human beings develop this ability to have creativity and imagination and to dream up things and then to figure out ways to bring these things into reality? It's a conjuring. It's a manifestation. It is difficult to wrap our own brain around how our own brains did that. And why are we the seemingly only creature that does such things? Crows don't have dreams of subways and then build a subway system. Squirrels don't have libraries where they read science fiction novels. Why and how did human beings do this? And is there another explanation than other just completely fucking random? A random happenstance. A universal miracle of luck and or tragedy that the human being's imagination was born, and the creativity and the wherewithal and the stick-to-itiveness to build, to transform. Alchemy. Are we better off? There's no point in answering that question, although it is a fun thought exercise to think about, even though it truly does not matter what the answer is. I mean, imagine being the first person who understood we died. That's what we don't talk about. Who's the first person who understood that we died? And if you could talk to that person right now and tell them that they could watch a television program where they have to figure out if it's cake or not, would they kill themselves? Oh, this is what hundreds of thousands of years of evolution do? Television programs about making chairs and guitars, ukuleles even, that might be cake. Grown men and women and others seeing how many hot dogs they can eat to celebrate freedom, calling themselves athletes. I got a full ride scholarship to Penn Station. Looks like you need so many damn subs. I got a full ride to Penn Station. Not Penn State, Penn Station. Yeah, we kind of had a joke just happen organically. Man, the first person who had consciousness and awareness of their own mortality, if they could see where we are now, it's not all darkness. There is some real beauty out there. You just have to make sure you can find it. You have to look for it. It's not going to be presented to you. It's an interesting component about this idea of the fear of death and how it controls all of our actions, according to some scientists and sociologists, is that people know that and people can use that. People are always like, oh, sex sells, sex sells. But if you watch any news program, you understand, or campaign commercials during election time, you understand that fear is the biggest driver. Fear is the number one tactic. Usually you can tell the difference because one side uses a little more than other, to say the least. Nonetheless, we're going to get more into this stuff here in the future. I enjoy discussing it. I hope you enjoyed listening. Todd and Diner Dan, the conversation of the ages, will be probably coming at some point. Maybe they'll probably have to talk about Eggs Benedict and if death is even real. Maybe that's the conversation piece. We've got all kinds of things happening. I've actually started responding to publicists, reaching out to try to book their guests on the program. I don't know why I just never really did. for years I've just ignored those emails. I've actually started responding because a few have reached out about guests that I think are going to be really interesting. So I've got a couple interviews coming up with people I don't know, and I'm very excited to meet and talk with. And I think you're going to enjoy them too. We're talking about UFOs. Another one we're talking about, demonic possessions. So it's going to be good. There's going to be some good interviews coming. I'm doing my damn. There's no real rhyme or reason when these come out. I'm going to do my damnedest to get back on a 2-a-week schedule. I've been saying that for a while, but we'll see. I'll get there. In the meantime, follow me on social media because on my Instagram account, I will be going live from Poasttown on October 25th. So a week from the day this airs, October 25th, I will be doing live streaming from Poasttown Elementary School. If you still haven't watched The Supernatural on YouTube or shared it with a friend or liked it, I would really appreciate if you did that. So give me a share, give me a like. The comedy special, The Supernatural, filmed in the haunted school, Poasttown Elementary School. Please go and do that. I will be live streaming, like I said, live from there with my buddy Eric from Epic Paranormal. Maybe a couple other people are coming. I'm going to be jumping in and out of live streams all night from Poasttown. So I hope you can join me on the live stream in a week, and maybe we'll catch something that our fear of death mind makes us believe is a shadow figure. Or maybe something actually so undeniable will happen that we don't even have to worry about wondering if it's our fear of mortality that has caused us to conjure it. Or maybe that is the greatest magician of all, and it conjures everything. So everything is real, but not at the same time simultaneously. It just never gets easy, does it? Anyway, I love you. I hope you love yourself. I don't have shows till December, so I won't be seeing you at a live comedy show anytime soon. But I do hope to see you at the watering hole on the astral plane.